And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Danny Cannell. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3. Thanks to all of you that are watching live as we break down our championship week locks. This is the final week of our regular competition because, bowl season's crazy, psychology season through and through. This is the last chance for anybody to see if you can make a run at the champ, which currently remains Bud Elliott at 80-56 overall on the season. We'll do just real quick because we got a lot to get to. But Tom, you were 5-5 last week, 71-55 for the season. Thoughts from last week as we move forward?
I'm mad at Nebraska for blowing it late and blowing my under. I'm not mad at Bedlam for going the way of Bedlam. That was entertaining. Other than that, nothing really to take away there. Things just didn't go our way. Obviously, I was in the lock fight with Danny on the Ohio State-Michigan game, but I was entertained enough to not care that I got killed in that one.
1-6 week for Chip. It was blood everywhere. And it was just across the board. It was a day where I don't know how many of our listeners or how many of our viewers also, dabble in some NFL picks and also sort of like spray the board. But I realized that when it came to my fortune and fate, the fact that I was successfully able to transport my family across 3 different counties in 3 different days, make it back here in time for 2 full work days on Friday and Saturday, that was my only win. I was 2-13 on the NFL side in a picks pool, and I was 1-6 on the locks. So it's just, your boy just took it on the chin, but we are spraying the board because remember, I want to finish 500.
Now, when you say you transported your family 3 counties in 3 days, do you mean like you were in like a Conestoga wagon, like in the Oregon Trail? Because here in Chicago, I could be in 3 counties in 20 minutes.
The total distance, the longest distance is only about an hour and a half. We're talking about like Wake, Chatham, Lee, Moore County. You spend 1 night in Sanford, 1 night in Pinehurst, get back. So it was just more the unloading and loading, which probably did feel like a wagon in the Oregon Trail with all the supplies that we had to unload. Danny, non-disciplined Danny is getting you back in a good spot. You're climbing back into the profitability. 7-5 on the week. That brings you to 67-59 on the season. What'd you think about your card last week, DK?
I too am mad at Nebraska, not for the total, but for choking that game off. I thought they were going to actually come out with it. Shows the importance of getting a number. When I lose the Bedlam lock fight with Bud, he had Oklahoma 4.5. I had Oklahoma State laying 4. I don't know. I feel better, feel good. Strongest week of the group. So I have that going for me. And I know I can't catch Bud, but I got Tom in my sights.
Good luck.
I know that I know y'all are not going to speak this language, but Tom, it's like they're fighting for whether they're going to like Champions League or Europa League at this point, right?
Ain't no fight. I'm like 9 units ahead of them.
Okay. We'll see. We got a lot of action here. Bud, as we mentioned, a 5-4 week for you, 80-56 on the season. What'd you think about your week 13 card?
I mostly avoided the bad luck on this show. I had some horrendous beats in my own personal account. Oh my God. The only one I really would complain about here is Boston College +5. They had the flu thing and they just got absolutely wiped. I'd like to see that game played at full strength because I don't think Wake Forest is 31 points better than Boston College is. But I was having a little PTSD, guys, back to last year when we would get good, reliable info on COVID. We'd bet it. The line would move a ton, and they'd be like, hey, here's your CLV. Can you pay your mortgage with some CLV? Because it ain't cashing. Overall, I was skeptical on Michigan, and I was wrong about them. We went over this, I think, on the Monday show. Like, they had played some teams that were, A, not very good, and B, especially not very good when they played Michigan because they were missing a lot of key guys, and I didn't properly evaluate that, but got home thanks to Tom's Illini. There we go. That was fun.
All right. Well, championship week on deck. Gentlemen, y'all ready to lock it up?
Let's do it.
We're picking locks.
My blue plate special 5-star locks are coming.
Since 2005, when Service Academy's
Come get these locks. 5-star master lock. Lock it up.
The under is 33-9-1. We've gone over it a million times.
You want these locks?
I'm living and dying every point, every cover.
Dinner slate, but we got to stick to our format and what we do for the listeners, which means that the early birds get it first. Friday, 7 p.m. on the Mothership CBS Sports Network from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. It is the Conference USA Championship game. Western Kentucky favored by 3 against UTSA. The over-under of 72.5. Does anybody have a lock on Cayusa?
I do.
All right, let's hear it.
Give me Western Kentucky minus 2.5. It's moved. It was at 1, which I think is early as yesterday. Now it's up to 2.5. It's at 3 some places, and I think it's moving for a reason. If you look at UTSA on the season, they're 11-1. They've been fantastic. Been rooting for them the whole time. Wasn't rooting for them when they beat Illinois, but other than that game, I was rooting for them. But the last month of the season, their defense has kind of fallen off a cliff. Like the defense wasn't elite to begin the year, but it was good, and it was paired with a really explosive and good offense. So they were winning a lot of games. The last month or so, not nearly as well. I don't know. It's injuries, whatever's going on. They've been giving up points really quickly. And this is a Western Kentucky team that started off the season 1-4, but its last loss was to this UTSA team, and it's been 7 wins since. And if you go back and look at that 52-46 UTSA win, I remember I was on UTSA minus 3 or 3.5 in that game. Western Kentucky should have won that game. I should not have won that bet. The Hilltoppers had the ball in the red zone in the final seconds with a chance to tie the game and then win it with an extra point. Bailey Zappi threw an interception, fine, but they still had over 100 yards more in the game than UTSA. They just, had some bad breaks with the turnovers and stuff, and it was more they ran out of time more than they lost the game. And I feel like this one, the way Western Kentucky's been playing compared to the way UTSA's defense has been playing as of late, and also offensively, Sincere McCormick was putting up 100-yard game after 100-yard game after 100-yard game. I think it's 3 straight games he's finished below 100, so I don't know if he's at 100%. I just feel like right now all the momentum is with Western Kentucky, and I think that they're going to win. And it sucks because before the season started, I took out a UTSA to win Conference USA plus 425 future. So I'm kind of costing myself here, but I don't think I'm going to win that bet because I think Western Kentucky is going to win this game.
The preseason future hedge on the Locks pod unveiled right there for Tom Fornelli. I tend to I lean your way. I think Western Kentucky is hotter right now. I mean, that's, UTSA probably peaked around game 8, right? Game 8, game 9, and it's been a little bit more sluggish in terms of its percentage performance since then. Western Kentucky, shocker, when you bring in a whole new offense and a whole new quarterback and a whole new everything, once they get more playing experience together, they're going to be better at the end of the season than they were at the beginning of the season. What the heck? I just spent all that time talking. Yeah. If I'm going to sit here down all of these picks and explain why I like it, let's go. Let the children sing.
I'm going to go meep. Come on. Give me.
Fight.
So I told you guys, I've talked to both these coaches in the past few weeks. Both impressive. Both have done fantastic jobs. And there's zero question that UTSA has come limping into this game where they almost lost the week before. They got blown out this past week against North Texas. But I think that was almost like one of these build-up moments of they were this undefeated team. They're playing a little bit tight. I'm going to go with the team that won already in the regular season, Bailey Zappi. I want to go. Why not? Let's make it a 2-for-1 special. Let's under because I do think you're going to see a concerted effort to get Sincere McCormick, who's still, I think he's top 10 in the country in rushing yards per game. He's still one of the better backs in the country. And with Frank Harris getting dinged up a little bit, came out of that game, did not go back in the game towards the end. I think there's going to be even more concerted effort for them to run the football. Western Kentucky does not care about running the football at all. They'll be throwing the ball, but I still think it'll slow it down enough to go under. I do think overall trend this entire weekend, like I'm leaning almost all unders. I want to be careful I don't take all of them, but I'm going to take the under in this one. So give me the Roadrunners and the under.
If these numbers had been this when the game came out, I would be on UTSA and under. But I think I'm wrong on this, and I'm going to go ahead and pass on both the sides. I made an adjustment to Western down a little bit after the Marshall game because Marshall's quarterback got hurt in like the 11th minute of the ball game, and two of Western's scores were kind of like late nonsense. They returned an onside kick for a touchdown, and then they after that, then they returned the next drive for a pick six. But man, UTSA has looked like total crap for 2 weeks in a row. They should not have beaten UAB, and I'm going to go ahead and pass. However, to Danny's point, if this does hit 38.5 somewhere for the team total, I think that's the play I will hit. Western under 38.5.
Like that from
But it's not out there right now.
Like that from Bud Elliott. All right, on Friday night, it is number 10 Oregon, number 17 Utah playing in Las Vegas. The Utes are 2.5-point favorites, over under of 58. Does anybody have a lock for the Pac-12 title game? Give me the first half under. It has been, Bud opened my eyes to this position, and the thing that I like about it the most is that it keeps me sweat-free when the game is really tight late and some of these coaches that might be more conservative by nature are forced out of their comfort zone and really start to throw some haymakers. Mario Cristobal, Kyle Whittingham both want to win the same way. They want to control the line of scrimmage. They want to avoid mistakes by each of these quarterbacks. Cam Rising's been, very good, but he's still not a quarterback that I think you're just going to let him go out there and decide the game for you, especially when you're so good at so many other places on the field. Same thing can be said for Anthony Brown. So I think that especially early on in the first stages of this neutral field, I mean, Danny, championship game unders, neutral field unders, like all those things are a great place where I'm going to start looking in and researching. And so with the nature of these two coaches and these two teams, a full game under, I wouldn't hate to, but first half under keeps me sweat free in case this thing goes to overtime or in case this thing ends up having a couple haymakers late. So I'll take that first half under.
Chip, lock agreement.
Nice.
For the exact same reasons. I don't think this will snowball on quite like the last game did. Yeah, I'm on the first half under here.
Is that the first half under lock agreement in podcast history?
It shouldn't have been. Week 1, you guys should have joined me on my first quarter, first half. Literally everything Northwestern is hot garbage. Multi-way.
I am now going back through the history to find out. Nope, it is not. It is not. Does anybody want to guess what it was? You never will, so fuck it. Oh.
What?
Whoops. Michigan, Penn State, first half under 24 was Bud, and not Chip, and not me, but Bud and Danny.
I mean,
In related news to what Tom just said, CBS is switching from defined vacation time to unlimited vacation time.
And we will now be on 7-second delay on live YouTube.
My bad. I hope your virgin ears didn't blow up.
Okay, so any other plays here on Oregon, Utah? Not going full game.
I'm not locking it up. We picked it on the early edge yesterday. Right. I do think the under is the smarter play of these two because I think that when you look at who they are and who they define themselves as, it's tough, physical, defensive football team. So I think that's the way the game's probably going to be looked to play it out. But I don't like the number enough to lock it up.
We move to Saturday. The noon kick is Baylor and Oklahoma State. This game being played AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Oklahoma State, a 5.5-point favorite, over under of 46.5. Oklahoma State won this first game 24-14. Yeah, 24-14. The Bears, of course, being able to get into this game thanks to Oklahoma State's victory over Oklahoma, while Baylor took care of business as well. A lot of college football stakes, especially for the Cowboys right here. So does anybody have a lock for the Big 12 championship game?
Can I shout it out before it moves again?
Go ahead.
Give me that last under 47 on the board.
All right.
Lock it up.
You too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Analysis. Spencer Sanders is not good.
Gary Bohannon, who knows how his health is. Like there's
poor quarterback play. Of course, with a total this low, poor quarterback play can lead to pick sixes and craziness, as we saw. Spencer throw a pretty bad ball last week that got Oklahoma back in the game. Also related, Oklahoma State scored on two either no field being a kickoff return or a short field, the fumbled punt possessions, and really didn't look that good, in my opinion, against Oklahoma's defense.
I think the total's too low. I'm not locking anything up, but I think it's smart to get it now because I do think it'll probably get lower before game time. I think I'm going to wait till this one's going. I'm going to bet this live. There's really nothing I like a lot here before kickoff. I lean towards Baylor on the spread and I lean towards the under, but if this thing gets low enough, I'll probably be pumping the over by the time kick starts.
I could see myself firing some live unders if we have any kind of defensive scores in this one, especially if somebody gets up big. I mean, given how conservative these guys have been this year. This opened 49.5.
Mm-hmm.
I lean Baylor. I think. And what do y'all think about? I mean, we don't have a ton of games here, and this is the Big 12 championship game. This has massive implications, but ignoring the implications for now, unless it's part of your pick in it. But like, who do you think ends up winning? Like, obviously you are predicting a low-scoring game, but where are the advantages or disadvantages? What's changed since that 24-14 result earlier this season?
I think this is the game with the biggest upset potential. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of chalk. That's what we've seen traditionally in the games that matter as far as playoff implications. This one, I'd probably put the biggest chance of an upset. But like the similarities between Oklahoma State and Michigan are pretty glaring. Like when you preview this game, like hangover effect, check. Like you have this rival that you haven't been able to get past. And I know Oklahoma State's beat Oklahoma, but they haven't been able to have this chance. What was it? Oklahoma 7 straight Big 12 championships. Like you haven't had this opportunity where you didn't have to beat them again. And now you're there. So there's this celebration. They get past Bedlam. They come in here. They play an opponent that nobody thought you were going to play. Like Iowa, no one thought they were going to play. Baylor's kind of a surprising, opponent that's there. Again, similarities in the defensive mindsets of both the Big 10 championship game, this Big 12 championship. But I do like the reason I do think that this team feels like there's an opportunity. Like they see that there's a playoff, spot at stake, which that was the one thing that worries me a little bit about like style points. Do they need them? Does it matter? Because most of these, you don't need style points at this point. Like, I don't think it matters for Oklahoma State either. That's why I'm not worried about a late touchdown. I think this is the type of game where you get a lead, you don't expose your quarterback to you don't want to take shots down the field to get that extra touchdown. You're going to lean on your defense and run game throughout.
I mean, they had a late touchdown against Baylor in the first game. Yeah. Remember, they scored with what, like a minute 55, 2:05, something like that left. I remember thinking, because I had Baylor in 4
to ice it.
Yeah, exactly. Can they get style points?
It's
nice to talk about style points, but can Oklahoma State go get style points?
Yeah, because the one thing you got to remember, that first game, Oklahoma State won 24-10, held Baylor to 280 yards, but Oklahoma State also turned the ball over 3 times in that game. So
their style points are holding them. Their style points are holding Baylor to single digits, like a touchdown or some touchdown or less.
Yeah, I do think though, if you're outside the top 4 right now, I don't think you rest your QB. I think you try, if you've got a chance to run it up and you're outside the top 4, I think you take every chance you can to run it up.
Oh, I don't think they rest Spencer Sanders. I think they're trying to cram it down your throat. I don't think they're taking shots down the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that if you think it's going to be low scoring and the defenses are going to dominate and you don't see, Thomas said it before, like Baylor's just a really good football team. They're not wildly impressive with height, weight, speed, prospect rankings, but they seem to be in the right places. They seem to have, great execution out there. I really like the Smith-Ebner combo running the football. I would guess that Baylor might have more explosive offense than Oklahoma State. Does that check out?
Mm-hmm.
Slightly? Not that Baylor has a very explosive offense, but if we're looking in a vacuum between Baylor and Oklahoma State and you need a home run or one home run's going to end up swinging this game, I think I trust Baylor more to get that.
And another thing that I think is worth considering for this game is Is Dave Aranda one of those coaches you don't want to give two shots at you? Like, they played Oklahoma State early in the season. He knows what they want to do. He knows what they're going to try to do in the rematch because he's a very good defensive coordinator and he's an excellent play caller on the defensive side of the ball. Giving him another chance at you when he already knows what you're trying to do, I wonder if we'll see any kind of impact there.
Chip, to your point, Oklahoma State, I have them 104th in explosive offense. So, and Baylor 30th.
Okay,
yeah, so
nice. Thank you, bud.
That's a pretty like really, really good number.
I ditched the spreadsheets after week 9 and just decided to trust my eyes and my heart. And so it's really good to know that these eyes, as tired as they are from 29 podcasts in 31 days, that we do still have a little bit connecting here in the old noggin. All right, let's take it from the noon. We've got other conference championship games that, of course, there's the potential that we have locks for, but sticking with our theme and our normal format, we're going to keep it going with the headliners, which takes us to the Big Body Benz. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia. It is the top-ranked Bulldogs against Alabama. Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite. Over under around 49.5. The SEC championship game. How many locks do we have?
I have a lock.
I've got one lock.
Is your lock the same as mine? Because mine
don't think so.
Is Georgia minus 6.5. In fact, while I'm locking it up here for pod purposes, I suggest finding an alternate line of Georgia minus 9.5 and going with that instead, because I think you're going to get much better value. But I just I talked about this yesterday too, Chip, when we were on the early edge. Like, teams tell you who they are if you just listen to them and pay attention to them. And I think Alabama's been trying to tell us what it is all season long, but nobody wants to listen to it. They keep putting it at number 2. They keep putting it at number 3. They think that it's still an elite team. And Alabama, what it is, it's a very good football team. And it might be one of the 4 best teams in the country. But it's not Alabama, or at least it's not the Alabama that we've seen in recent years. In the trenches particularly, I don't think it's as good of an Alabama team as we're used to seeing. I think they get outmanned and out-physicaled by a lot of teams. We've seen it. We saw it against Texas A&M, which was the best defensive front that Alabama has faced this season before Saturday. And we saw what happened in that game. We saw what happened against Florida. We saw what happened against an LSU team with an interim coach with guys who were kind of checked out in the season. They were able to out-physical Alabama for a lot of that game. Auburn was able to do it last week to force them to take it to overtime. Even Arkansas at times was doing it a few weeks ago. Now you're going up against Georgia. Why am I supposed to believe that Alabama's been sandbagging it all season long just to surprise Georgia in the SEC championship game? No. Georgia's got better players in the trenches. That's where Georgia's going to win this game. They're not going to put up 40 points on Alabama, but they're going to hold them to it. Nope. Alabama might score the most points on Georgia this year. It might get 17, but Georgia's going to get closer to 30. So give me the Bulldogs.
I know you're not a huge team totals guy, but if you find a 24, you got to fire that, right?
Yeah.
There's 23.5 out there.
I'll probably be on that too, yeah.
Like an Alabama team total under 24?
In fact,
if you find that, there's a 23.5. I see a 21.5. 23.5 is a little juiced.
Oh, is it 21? And I'll lock that up. Alabama team total under 21.5. That's put on the card now too.
Should I double fight this? No, let's just single fight it.
I'm locked agreement. Oh,
Fight.
College football reasons. I just I think that we are at a fascinating point in the SEC, Nick Saban, Alabama era, because, and no, I'm not going to do that thing where you try to write the dynasty is over column. Okay.
Okay.
I don't do that. But what I can acknowledge is mystique, because mystique is intangible. Mystique is that stuff that kind of creeps in your head, and really more fans than players. It doesn't actually have that much of an impact on the games on the field, but this is a sport that we talk about 12 months a year when there's only 12 games in a season. And for the first time this season, Nick Saban lost to a former assistant. If it happens twice in the same season, and if it happens to a Georgia team that has continually bumped its head against the ceiling that is the Crimson Tide, then this is it. The mystique's gone. The Alabama machine will still recruit at a high level. They'll still win a bunch of games and compete for national championships. But the mystique that you can't beat them, the blood will be on the floor, because it's not going to be the fluky Ole Miss, not fluky, but because Ole Miss was in the mix for the SEC West, but it feels fluky looking back on it, especially how other SEC teams have played against Alabama. Auburn, because it's the Iron Bowl, always has that own space. But Texas A&M and Georgia are Alabama's top 2 competitors in the SEC on the recruiting trail. They're some of the top 2 competitors on the field. And if Alabama loses both of those games to Nick Saban former assistants, the mystique's gone. It's a new era in the SEC, one that is a little bit less of Alabama and everyone else, and not wide open and not parody, but at least you have to seriously entertain other angles here, other decisions on who's going to win. But when it was 13-0, right? Wasn't it 13-0 at halftime of the championship game? And I'm like, I'm walking around the concourse of this stadium, and the Georgia bros are crying and hugging with tears in their eyes. It's finally happening. All of my entire life, this is all we've wanted. This is it. We're going to do it in Atlanta. We're going to do it against Alabama. And then took it out from them. Then in the SEC championship game, you hold that lead in the third quarter. And then what are you doing, Kirby? Then Alabama just takes it out from them. And the best quarterback on the field plays for Alabama. And when Bryce Young led a 97-yard touchdown drive to send that game to overtime for the first time in Iron Bowl history, I said on that Saturday, as I was getting ready for I think SEC postgame, maybe, I was like, all right, well, that's it. I'm picking Alabama next week. And I picked Georgia to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game in May. I picked Georgia to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game in July. So I'm not going to be surprised, but there's just way too many people who believe that Georgia is going to be able to get through this. And I think Alabama, with Bryce Young, has a chance to bring back that scary mystique, intangible, and at least keep this thing close. 6.5 points. Let's go.
Listen, I know Bud's about to drop some intelligence and sense onto the show, but Chip, I just want to remind the listeners that in lock fights this year between you and me, I am 3-1, and also you are negative 13 units on the season. So.
Small sample size theater.
I mean, this feels like Chip should just play this on the money line.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I think there's a segment in this show.
I don't think Georgia's secondary is very tested. It doesn't mean it's bad, right? Like Georgia doesn't recruit scrubs there. Kirby Smart generally has pretty good secondaries. They really have not played a whole lot of good passing offenses, and they haven't played a lot of great defenses. I expect Alabama to copy some of the game plan Florida used against them, through the first 20 or so minutes, which was kind of effective. Not really like you didn't think Florida was going to win, but like, okay, they're giving Georgia a little bit of problems here. However, I like the fact that Georgia's defense can throw 2 pitches here. On the one hand, the last couple teams to play Alabama and to shut this offense down have blitzed like crazy. LSU came out. They played a lot of zero stuff. Mm-hmm. Auburn sent guys from everywhere. A&M also messed up their protections quite a bit. Alabama in the second half of the year has not done a very good job with some of their blitz protections. So if you look at the game that going back to week 1 that Georgia played against Clemson, I think they were kind of scared of Clemson's receivers, which ultimately turned out to be a faulty assumption on their part, but we didn't know that in week 1. And they sent a lot of blitzes. They really did, and that gave Clemson some problems. Over the course of the year, Georgia has not had to blitz all that much, but they certainly can blitz a lot. And more Bama running backs are banged up. That's going to mess with some of their protections. I continue to not like Damian George at right tackle. I just don't think that's a Bama quality player right now. And that's been a problem in the last couple of weeks, but now it might be like a real problem. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that thing's in my house. I've been in the fix for a while. Danny, you know this living down here. It's like, oh, shoot, a hurricane's coming. I really need to get this fixed like now, right? The hurricane is Georgia. I need Georgia's offense not to screw this up for me like it has let me down in so many games over the years. I've got a 10-1 ticket on these guys. I want to go back out to the MGM and have an excuse to go out to Vegas to cash that thing. I think the one thing I really believe in is that I don't think Bama can block Georgia. And if they can, I'll lose because Bama's receivers are good enough, I think, to expose Georgia. But I don't know that Bama can block Georgia consistently. And if they have to light them up, blitz their ass.
So wait, are you locking it up? You just offer?
Yeah, 6.5.
All right. So that's a agreement with Tom, a fight with Chip. Good old
Have I done well
fight
this year? I don't know. I feel like I always lose them.
Danny, you getting in?
Chip, let's lock arms. Brothers in arms.
Oh, we've got a lock war.
Yeah.
All right.
one more thing. Shout out to Jermaine Johnson for winning the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, not only in the coaches' vote, but also in the Pro Football Focus vote. Jermaine Johnson, who was a backup on this Georgia defensive line last year and transferred because he couldn't get on the field.
Okay.
Who's the best defensive player in this game?
Will Anderson?
Correct.
Who's the
best
second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth?
All right. Who's the better quarterback in this game?
It's Bryce Young.
Correct. So it's too many daggum points in this rivalry. Like, it's just, and I know it's only 6.5, but it's too many daggum points for a Bama team that this has been now thing makes me nervous. We saw Michigan get over their hurdle. We saw Oklahoma State get over their hurdle. Maybe this is the one where Georgia gets over their hurdle and they finally get there. That is why I'm also on the first half under in this game. So I'll tell you why I kind of like Bama here. I don't love it. I want to have a lock fight. I want to have a lock war. I want to
can we play it? I don't think we
Yeah,
played it.
Yeah, play it.
No, we haven't played it all year.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a lock war. Lock war. Lock war.
So the teams that have had, and the first half under, by the way, I think is 25.5. Is that the best number I can get?
Yeah, 24.5 I can get you.
Because I think this game is going to be 6-3, 10-3 at halftime. Like, I think it's going to be one of those feel out type of games. So the teams that have played Georgia the toughest, and it's only been for a half, I know, Clemson, Florida, and Auburn, where they were competitive in the first half. Those three games, the quarterbacks really lost their patience, made big mistakes, whether it was DJ Uiagalelei, tried to squeeze a slant in there, pick six the other way. Bo Nix does Bo Nix things, and Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson aren't very good quarterbacks. One thing I've really been impressed with Bryce Young, and I noticed this during the Iron Bowl, noticed it during LSU, he knows his offensive line isn't very good, but man, does he believe in himself and his teammates. And he's like, I'm not going to cost my team a game. I'm not going to go out there and try to do too much. I'm not going to throw a pick six. I'm not going to I'll sack me. He might get sacked 10 times in this game, but I feel pretty confident that he's not going to just put his defense in a bad spot, that he'll throw it away. He'll get to the line of scrimmage. He'll do whatever it takes. And I think this game could be, in the second half, the first time all year since that Clemson game that Georgia's had to sweat a little bit. And guess what? This team, and Chip laid it out, has been in position to knock out Bama several times. There is very much a mental aspect to this where no matter what the score is, whether they're up 14, whether they're up 10, they're not going to be comfortable. And Bama has been comfortable this season. They've been in plenty of fights. Now that, to Tom's point, that is something that's concerning, but I'm still very curious to see how Georgia does when they respond to that type of situation. Because I don't mind. I kind of want to do the total on the game under, but I do worry that it's just too much in the end. And, Bama's defense might be out there just too long, and you see Georgia pull away late. That's why I feel like I'm hedged a little bit on one of these locks with the under, the first half under. But I think this game could be ugly, and it could be a second half game, and then it's anybody's ball game.
First time Alabama has been a betting underdog since. Anyone got it?
2015.
And it was to Georgia in Athens. They were a 6.5 point favorite. They won by 4 touchdowns, and Mark Richt was out by the end of the year.
Blah, 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 blah.
And we criticized Georgia for that. However, Kirby got in there and said, hey, you want to start winning in recruiting? We need to put pedal to the metal. Here's how this works. And they've locked down that state since, for the most part.
Also, do you know which offense is leading the country in success rate by 3.5% over the second place team? It's not Alabama.
It's not Alabama.
No, it's Georgia. Do you know where Alabama ranks? 21st. So having the better quarterback and all those guys really doesn't seem to help them in that area very much. But
Danny's point does scare me.
Having a good offensive line, I don't know.
Which point scares you?
The fact that some of the more, I'm not going to say better because Florida's defense wasn't actually good this year, but the more talented defenses Georgia has faced has kind of made this offense look But I'm a believer enough in the defense creating some short fields I'm a believer in betting against Damian George.
Mhm.
Stetson Bennett.
Like
picked
everybody's
off
got
by
athletes
Jordan
all over the
Battle.
field. So like find the duck, right? Danny, you know the term
Yeah.
for the guy that can't cover. Find the duck works for offensive linemen too. And I think at this point, sometimes you just got to play a kid before he's ready.
All right, we will come back to the American Athletic Conference on the other side, but before we hit the break, number 2 Michigan, number 13 Iowa. We are in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. The Wolverines are favored by 11, over under of 43.5. Who's got a lock for the Big Ten title game?
I do, but I'm getting it at 10.5, not 11. Give me Michigan. Give me Michigan minus 10.5. Just, I get the concerns about an emotional letdown off of last week's win. I get the fact that we've seen a lot of times in the Big Ten championship, like last year with Northwestern against Ohio State, where the Big Ten West team comes in and just kind of muddies things up for a while. And then the other team is finally able to win in the end, but they never really pull away. But the difference to me in that is, if you're Northwestern or last year or in Iowa this year, like, your style of play is a contrast to Ohio State. It actually gives you something of an edge on them in that they're not matching up the same way. That's not the case in this game. Like, Michigan is Iowa, except it has a much better offense, much more talented players, and is faster. It's like, it's like Iowa's generic brand Michigan. I don't mean that to be as negative connotation as it is, but I just, it's the same team, just not as good in every single area. Like, maybe you can argue they're better in special teams, but other than that, I just don't see how Iowa hangs with Michigan for a full 60 minutes. Maybe they keep it close early, but unless Michigan turns the ball over numerous times, which again is possible, Iowa, 28 turnovers forced this year. 27 of them were forced in their 10 wins, only 1 forced in their 2 losses. So I feel like the formula for beating Iowa is pretty obvious and pretty simple. And I think Michigan can pull it off. And I think the Wolverines are going to win big. So I'm laying the 10.5.
I think it is fair to say that if your wife sends you to the store for Michigan and you bring back Iowa, you're going to hear about it.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
However, if it's one of those items that, like, you end up using anyway and you can kind of get the job done, nobody will notice, this is the spot I like to bet Iowa. Now, there's not a point, so I'm not going to do it. I just want to bring up the point. Like, I'm anti-betting Iowa when they're favored. Like, that's not how they play. It's kind of the Pat Fitzgerald thing, back when Northwestern was okay. Like, I'm not in a big, huge rush to lay points here. Is there? I do have I had a lock on the game. Does this move too much? Yeah, my last number was 44 to bet. I took 45 on Sunday, Monday. All right, maybe that'll come back alive.
I'm on that under. Like, was 44 the best number, or is it 43?
No, at 43.5 now. The
There
last
is
number I
still
really
a
want to bet is
44 out there.
Oh, really? Where at?
Points bet.
Yeah. Okay. Give me the 44.
Same. How many? Whoop, wrong one.
Also, like, that number matters. I know some people are like, why would you bet it at 44 and not 43.5? Like, every half point matters, and there are a lot of outcomes that get you to 44 for push, right? Also, there are 45 is a better number because 24-21 pushes me, it doesn't beat me. If you bet under 43 and the game finishes 24-20, you lose. So
I see, I like the under as my lock here because I think there's multiple paths to get there. In general, it is, I see it like Tom does, where Michigan knows exactly what Iowa wants to do because it does it better. And Michigan wins this game like 31-7 or something like that. However, in the other way that I see this game playing out, where Iowa does keep it close, maybe because Michigan makes some mistakes, maybe there is a little bit of an Ohio State hangover, I still don't see Iowa scoring enough points to win the game outright. So whether it's a super low-scoring rock fight or Michigan blows them out, the one common thread there is I just don't see Iowa scoring a ton. So I like being able to attack the total right there.
That is why I'm going to take Iowa's team total under 16.5. When your best offensive weapon is your punter and Torrey Taylor, who, by the way, remember what he did against Penn State? Like, he had 9 punts, felt like he backed him up inside the 10, like half of them or more. quarterback questions. Like, is Petrus the guy? I mean, you've let him back against Nebraska. The one thing that worries me about this one is I do think it'll be I'm tempted to take the first half under, but I'm not, because I do think there will be a hangover effect of sorts. But I think that impacts the offense more, like timing, rhythm. The defense for Michigan, I think, is going to be ready. I don't see any way that Iowa puts up many points, is why I'm on that one. But there's a part of me that wonders if Michigan just starts feeling it, and then you've got whatever Iowa quarterback it is throwing the football. You get pick six. You could see Hassan Haskins run for a few more touchdowns. Like, I could see this game getting sideways too. So, but I also could see it. I could see Iowa's defense presenting problems in the second half, but it just worries me that this one could get out of hand.
I like again, as we continue to talk about stuff that doesn't matter on all the spreadsheets and in the things, but like, this game's in Indianapolis, national championship game in Indianapolis. If Michigan does win and look impressive, I want it. I will, like, if Michigan really is going to do this, especially with, the season that they've had, the Jim Harbaugh arc that he's been through in the last, 18 months or whatever, like, I want even more to see that national championship opportunity for the Wolverines. It would be a lot of fun.
Here's a fun little fact about Iowa's offense that at least I think is fun. In Big Ten play this year, Iowa scored as a team 25.2 points per game. Their offense only scored 21.1 points per game, which shows you how many points they were scoring on defense and special teams. It's a 4-point difference per game between the Iowa's team total and its offense's total.
If you were talking about Michigan, like, I want the new back to the old version of Jim Harbaugh, where he's talking a lot of smack. Like, I want to see him in Georgia. Just give me Jim Harbaugh calling out people left and right.
Yeah, there's so much time at the national championship game to like, trot those head coaches in front of microphones, right? You've got the press conference when you land. You've got the media day on Saturday. You've got a Sunday morning press conference. I mean, Harbaugh would hold court. Coming up on the other side, we open up the board for championship week. What locks are we going to have for Cincinnati, Houston, for Pitt, Wake, for App State, Louisiana, Utah State, San Diego State? Find out next.
I made you eat your parents.
Arresting me for what? I thought this was America.
Hello? Stan? Kyle?
South Park post-COVID, an exclusive event now streaming.
Nobody wants another one of your marijuana specials, Dad.
It's not a special. It's an exclusive event.
Only on Paramount Plus.
Time to review what we've got so far on the locks doc. Tom is on Georgia -6.5, Western Kentucky -2.5, the Alabama team total under 21.5, Michigan -10.5. Chips on Alabama +6.5, Western Kentucky -2.5, Oregon, Utah first half under 29, and the under 44 in Michigan, Iowa. Danny has Alabama +6.5, UTSA +3, Western Kentucky, UTSA under 72.5, the Baylor, Oklahoma State under 47, Alabama, Georgia first half under 24.5, Iowa team total under 16.5. Bud on Georgia -6.5, the Oregon, Utah first half under 29, the Baylor, Oklahoma State under 47, and Michigan, Iowa under 44. All right, Danny, you did, as you recognized, you were the leader last week. A couple games, championship games left on the board that we haven't gotten a chance to touch on. Where do you want to turn our attention?
I'll turn the attention to the conference of quarterbacks, the ACC championship game featuring two great ones, Kenny Pickett versus Sam Hartman. I know Pitt, their defense is pretty good. They do sack the quarterback quite often, but I think this is going to be a shootout. This is a high number. What is 71.5? I'm going to take the over. I think this one's going to be the most entertaining game of the weekend. Great quarterback play, loads of offense, great receivers on display, some of the best in the country. We've seen Wake in shootouts. We've seen Pitt in shootouts. I think this one just follows the trend of these ACC games. And it's a high-scoring game. I would lean towards Pitt, but just like I think it's going to be wacky where it's kind of, who knows, like at the end, it could be a little bit fluky, but I think it's going to be high-scoring. It's going to be a ton of fun.
You know, Danny, you think you're going to catch me in this competition, but it's going to be a lot harder to do that after I beat you in this lock fight.
Fight, fight, fight.
Too many daggum points. 71.5 for a conference title game. Both these schools are playing. This isn't where they're used to being. This is a whole new experience for them. They are going to have some tight booty syndrome. They're going to be cautious. They're going to take care of the football. It's going to be a high scoring game. Don't get me wrong. One of the team that wins is going to be in the 30s, but they're not getting to the 40s, and they're not both getting there. So give me the under.
I mean, how are you expecting there to be any offense available in Bank of America Stadium? Have you seen the teams that are playing in Bank of America Stadium right now? No one can score touchdowns there. There are allergens in the end zone that are preventing anybody from scoring touchdowns. My lean here is Deeks and the points, but that's not with a lot of confidence and not a lock worthy. The Pitt has, for my money, the better quarterback. And Kenny, like to do the Alabama Georgia dance, Danny, Kenny Pickett and Servassier Dennis, the Pitt linebacker, like that's your best defensive player. That's your best offensive player. In terms like defensively, I think that Pitt's not great, but it has not been so leaky as Wake Forest. But the Deeks are playing with a lot of confidence right now. And I think being in all of those close games all throughout that beginning of the season, you know, we looked at them and we were like, oh man, you know, there's going to be some regression. They're really like a 9-3 or 10-2 team. They're just squeaking by. But, you know, college football, college sports in general, there can be some confidence that's built up in runs like that. So I don't want to doubt the Deeks just yet, but I do not feel strongly enough to drop it as a lock. Maybe there's another opportunity here on this podcast to take underdogs if you think there's a chance that they win.
You know what? After hearing Chip's assessment and then perusing his record last weekend on the season, give me the Panthers. Hail to Pitt, Kenny Pickett, who Pitt, by the way, 9-3 against the spread, 5-0 against the spread this season when favored by 7 points or fewer. Kenny Pickett for Heisman. If Bryce Young struggle, because I think Bryce Young is the winner. If he just kind of holds serve, he's steady. But if Georgia's defense embarrasses him, and I don't think that happens, that presents a massive opportunity for Pickett. Prime time, high scoring game. Keep an eye on it. Go ahead and give me the Pitt Panthers.
Yeah, this works. Pitt. This works to your favor, Danny, because this is my favorite stupid trend that I actually track.
Pat Narduzzi.
Yeah, Pat Narduzzi in close games, like anywhere if the spread is between -3.5 and 3.5, so within that touchdown, at Pitt is 14-5-3 against the spread.
Why? Like, no, listen, Tom and I've talked about this stat a lot. Why from +3.5 to -3.5? Why is Pat Narduzzi 14-5-3 against the spread?
I don't know, but it's this trend that will not stop.
Sorry, bud, you're muted.
Well, he used to coach like it was an NFL game.
Yeah.
This year, though, Narduzzi is he's kind of holding a Aranda. Like they're not doing near as much as like the ridiculous game-killing punting or not as many field goals from the 2 on 4th and an inch. You know that they're doing better on that.
I mean, Kenny Pickett, he credits Mark Whipple, and like Mark Whipple's been around, right? I mean, there's a long like track record, and I don't know if I've heard Mark Whipple as one of the like 5 top names listed when I ask people who know better than I, like, hey, what offensive coordinator should I be keeping an eye on? You know, who's a real difference maker? But Pickett continually has said like this offense is different thanks to Mark Whipple, and maybe some of those decisions are in play thanks to the OC as well, because that OC change I think happened like 2 to 3 years ago. Kenny Pickett's had 2 different coordinators in his 9 years with the Panthers.
All right, I'm in on this game at 1.5, 2, 2.5, pretty heavily. Line's 3 now. I think it would have been 4 or 5 had the Pitt flu news not come out. I'm going to be so damn pissed off Saturday night if Pitt has this whole like Boston College Northeastern flu crap going on. And that I'm just going to be very disappointed because I think this opener was bad. Pickett apparently practiced.
Get him the IV drip. Let's go.
That's what I'm saying. Like the one thing I will say is like Pitt's defense is pretty solid. But the one thing it does allow a lot is what? Explosive drives. They don't really let you hold the ball against them all that long. They get the ball out of your hands. They dare you to go deep. Wake Forest can go deep some. Pitt can also go deep. Wake Forest defense is the one thing that's really consistent in this game. It's consistently bad. Like they're not a good defense at all. I'll stick with it. Give me Pitt minus the 3. The flu thing.
Danny calling in. Vitamin B drips for anybody who needs it.
Can I ask a question? It's a little off topic. Is the flu bug really COVID? Like, they're not testing? Because why in the NFL do we have all these guys missing games for COVID, and yet there's no players ever mentions any COVID-19 list? Is that basically what we're seeing?
No, the Ravens had the non-COVID flu thing going on. Yeah.
But like, you haven't
I think it's something in the
any
Northeast.
players COVID announcement in college football. Maybe they're just all considered.
Unless you're Cal. I don't think they're testing.
Unless you're Cal in Berkeley. That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't want to distract us.
The other thing I like in this game, and I'll go ahead and lock it up. Give me Pitt over 36.5. If Kenny Pickett's healthy, they're dropping 40 guys.
Yeah.
I mean, this Wake defense is bad.
I think that when
I've got him 98th.
According to the protocol, and whether or not these schools are following protocol, I do think that if you show any symptoms, you end up getting tested. So if you are flu-y enough to have illness, to be considered an illness, then I imagine that some kind of test is coming on the back of it. But Danny, I've thought about that too.
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of professional athletes going on COVID lists and not many in college. Just
and a lot of like flu bugs running through it. I mean, pretty much more coaches are talking about this in post-game press conferences. He's like, really happy with the way we overcame adversity. We had about 10, 12 guys who are missing practice this week because of the flu. And all of us are like, what? Would have been nice to know on Thursday.
Yeah. Last year we had to shut down the entire week for it.
Yeah.
The other issue is, I believe some of the protocols are if you get it, you don't have to retest again for X number of days. So I do know there were some schools that had COVID stuff going on in their fall camp. If I don't know how long the period is on all these, but
whether we're talking like a 60 or 90-day window or like whatever it is. And interesting. All right. What about the American Athletic Conference Championship game? The big moment for Cincinnati, and you get to hold it at home. Now, is that going to be a good thing because you get to ride a home crowd, or is that maybe even add even more pressure, a little more lemon booty possibility? The Bearcats are 10.5-point favorites against the Houston Cougars. Both teams undefeated in American Athletic Conference play. Over under at 53. Anyone got a lock?
I'll take the Bearcats. Lay the 10.5. Houston's had a great season. They've been eking out some games pretty ugly late. I think Cincinnati, once they got past the college game day, almost near disaster versus Tulsa, seems like they turned a corner last couple weeks. I do think they've been playing better. It's almost like they've breathed the sigh. I know there's a ton of pressure on them. I just do feel like this is the game where Houston's not as good. I think Desmond Ridder has the edge, and Clayton Tune's a good quarterback, but I think Cincinnati is a better defense. I think they'll be able to control this one. I think they'll win the game, and I think they'll win it pretty easily.
I'm looking to see.
That's how I see it too. I'm not going to.
For the most part.
It's moved a lot. Oh, sorry.
Like Houston's final 3 games, Temple, Memphis, and UConn, like they're not exactly battle tested. The times they were, I mean, USF, they almost lost. SMU is not very good this year. They almost lost. Like they're not as good, I don't think, as their record says they are, because the records, the opponents haven't exactly been, it's not been a gauntlet for them.
Yeah, but I mean, Cincinnati's played pretty much the same schedule.
Yeah. But I think Cincinnati's figured it out as of late,
I feel like if this was under 10, I'd be a lot more comfortable. Just something about that 10 in the hook right there. It's why I'm not locking it up. And I lean towards Houston at this point, but again, not enough to the space where I want to lock it up.
Actually, I found one. WinBet has it 53.5 under. A little bit scared here that Houston doesn't run the ball well. But Houston has the best defensive line in this conference by a large margin. They're a lot better up front than Cincinnati is. I don't think the Cincinnati team is as good as last year's team was. And the main area that I think they're worse at this year is that offensive front. So I think Houston will be able to cause them some problems up front. and get after Desmond Ridder a little bit.
So we were locking that up officially, 53.5.
Yeah, the under 53.5. That's the last number I want, by the way. This opened 55.5. That was nice.
Mm-hmm. Dropping. Okay, so we still have I'll take us to the Sun Belt Championship game. App State favored by 3 at Louisiana. Billy Napier is coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Billy Napier coaching his final game for the Raging Cajuns before he goes to take over in Gainesville. So App favored by 3 at Louisiana. Louisiana pasted the Mountaineers 41-13 earlier this season. A game that I consider far more of a far more of a no-show situation for App State, more than representative of the distance between these two teams. However, the Raging Cajuns have won the last 2 in this series. They are playing at home. This is a whole bunch of super seniors and Billy Napier. Like there's no mystery about what's happening here. They're trying to win this championship. They're trying to do it together, and then everybody's going to go their separate ways. I think that App being favored is probably a wrong team favored situation, but I also think that the Mountaineers could win this game. Either way, I think both these teams are going to try to get it decided at the line of scrimmage. And while we have seen Chase Bryce, Hennigan, like a few of those wide receivers be able to hit explosive plays for App State during the year, I think that this game is far more tight. I think this game is far more low scoring. The rematch factor, these two teams know each other so well that I will take the under 53 in the Sun Belt Championship game.
I can get you 53.5.
That sounds great.
Sorry, guys. As you know, I'm on baby watch, and Mags was just yelling upstairs. But it turns out the repairman just left. Not an emergency. What game are we talking about?
Chip is taking the under in Louisiana App State.
Okay.
Did App State really no-show that game, or did they just get their ass kicked?
It was a midweek game, and Chase Bryce showed up, and they had a couple turnovers early. The game was out of hand very quickly in a way that was going to be difficult to come back from. All right, so it's 20-3 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, App State finished with 211 yards, 4 turnovers. So yeah, I mean they definitely, but I don't know. I feel like that 20-3 at the end of the first quarter was kind of just Louisiana beating the crap out of them in the first 15 minutes more than anything.
We had one short field touchdown, a couple turnovers.
I'll take it with you. I'll lock it up.
On the under?
Louisiana. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I thought you took Louisiana. I'll take the Raging Cajuns. I'm going to take the home dog. This one, like Chase Bryce, maybe there was a feeling when they beat Coastal Carolina, like he solved his turnover bug. Still Chase Bryce, still has had 2 other games where he had multiple interceptions. I still think he's a problem. I trust Billy Napier's squad more than I trust. And this one, to me, the one thing about it is like, how can this be the number? Like, is there something we don't know? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the Billy Napier, impact of him trying to take calls at night, for the Gators and trying to recruit for them. And he's not fully there, but this is one for me where I think the players rally at home and get it done.
I love that.
I have oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just saying, I love that this is the smallest slate since like week 0, but it's going to be Danny's season high in locks.
Let's go. Keep them coming. I'm coming for you.
I have App State like 6 points better on a neutral. I mean, ULL didn't play well against Monroe. They did play well against Liberty, but after Stephen Army did to Liberty, that's not super impressive. They played a Troy team that was getting their coach fired. Struggled with Georgia State down the stretch. Struggled with Arkansas State. But on the other hand, if you look at what App's done, they just beat the crap out of everybody down the stretch. The only thing that scares me here is like they did get to play Troy, I believe, post coach firing for Troy, and they got to play South Alabama the week after. It was the Troy game that Jake Bentley got cheap shotted, right? And that was the week before App played South Alabama, if my memory serves. So I don't think Bentley played against that. Anyway, what I've done is I've adjusted my power rating slightly down for App to where I really don't want to bet this unless it gets under 3. But if it gets under a field goal, I think I'll bet it because I do think App can push around Louisiana's front.
All right.
Sorry, I was looking. I was like, why am I not betting this? And then I saw my note.
Breaking news for the Locks Pod. Adrian Martinez in the transfer portal.
Oh, thank goodness.
Actually great, like for everybody. Like I think it's good for Adrian Martinez. Go try your hand elsewhere. But I almost feel like Nebraska fans are celebrating too. Like they appreciate what he did. He's tough as nails. He put his body on the line. But I'd want to see somebody else.
They got a taste of that Logan Smothers, and they said, "Get the hell out of here, Adrian Martinez." Does Logan Smothers have any brothers? Does anybody get that joke besides me and Danny?
The Smothers brothers.
Okay, just
yeah. I got you. Were you listening to Smothers Brothers records on vinyl?
Oh yeah, every morning. That's how I wake up.
All right. So what else do we have?
I've got 2 more locks.
Mac and
Mountain West. Which
you got one for each?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll start with the Mac. I am locking up Kent State minus 3.5. It's I wish it was still under 3, but I like it at 3.5. They played earlier this year. Kent State won 52-47 in a crazy game. Like Northern Illinois is 8-4 on the season and 6-2 in conference play, but it allowed more points than it scored. It's kind of like the bizarro Nebraska in that all its wins were 1 score and its losses generally came by larger scores. But if you look closer at that Kent State game, Northern Illinois is a team that likes to run the ball. Its entire offense is built on running the ball. They're like an option team with the amount of times that they rush. Kent State held Northern Illinois to 3.4 yards per carry in that game. They kind of suffocated him. What happened was Rocky Lombardi had like the greatest game of his career out of nowhere, threw for nearly 400 yards and kept Northern Illinois in that shootout. Meanwhile, Kent State had 682 yards of offense in the game, was averaging 8 yards per carry on the ground. I think Kent State is more capable of repeating that kind of performance than I am that Northern Illinois is going to throw for 500 yards if Kent State takes its run game away, even though Kent State's defense isn't great. But still, I just think the Golden Flashes are the better team in this one. I think that you're getting some value on the line because of Northern Illinois' record. So give me the Flashes minus 3.5.
Kent Bud, you got your eyebrows raised. Kent State.
Yeah.
Always look at our tempo adjustments on Kent State.
Yeah, but my adjustment for NIU is NIU's not that great. I am probably going to play something alt here because I do think that Kent State has the potential to really blow their doors off. And Kent State's coach is somebody who I think will be hot on the job market. So the only way to get noticed in a MAC game is by putting up some really crooked number if you can. So Sean Lewis, run it up for me if possible. I think if you look at like the distribution of possible scores, a huge blowout here is where I really want to put a tiny bit of money.
It's also easy to get noticed when you're 6'7", which Sean Lewis is.
At SB Nation, we did the college coaches fight draft, which was pretty fun. And I had Sean Lewis as my number 1 pick, but I had the 4th pick and I still got him. I was like,
yeah. Well, because let me guess, the first 3 you were Power 5 coaches, right?
Yeah.
And you were the first group of 5 pick because you were.
And I'd been at the convention and I was like, this guy looks like a pro wrestler. So yeah.
A local guy too. He's from around here.
All right. What about, so in 1963, the Smothers Brothers released an album called Think Ethnic ! Do we think that would still play as well?
I don't know how well they would play in this age. No.
All right. Mountain West championship game.
I'm taking the under. Just an old reliable San Diego State under. I think that physically, like Utah State is not an efficient offense. It is very much reliant on explosive plays to keep drives going. And when they get them, Utah State looks great. But I don't think they're going to get them against San Diego State. I think that Aztecs defense is going to be able to smother them. And then on the other side, I think San Diego State could probably get whatever it wants offensively against this Utah State defense. It's not really in San Diego State's nature to like go score 40 points. They would rather just control the game. They're very happy winning 27-10. You know what I mean? They don't need to get to 40 if they don't have to. So I think that the total here is just a little bit too high. So give me the under 50.
If this thing gets out to 7 before game time, I do know the Utah State always fights. So I will be tempted by that, especially with a smaller slate, and San Diego State to cover a large spread is is a challenge from time to time with the way they handle business. However, Utah State's defense can be very friendly, very hospitable, and so I'm gonna stay on the sideline for that one.
I'm gonna fight it out. Give me
Tom.
Yeah.
Fight.
We're in 4 fights now this week.
Yes, I'm gonna catch you. I'm coming for you.
You might.
San Diego State. How did they do against our guy Jay Kaner at Fresno? They've given up more points to some of the teams with the better quarterbacks. Now Logan Bonner's been up and down all season long. But I think they've struggled more against teams that can throw it. They're one of the better run defenses, and as you would expect, they see the run all the time in practice. I think they can score, but I also think Utah State is going to keep slinging it around throughout, even if it's a pick six or something late. Give me the over.
And get you 49.5.
Even better.
Is anybody jumping in on the zombie USC Cal
11 p.m. kick on FS1?
What are we doing?
I mean,
I am.
Take
Do you
the
understand?
under.
Do you understand how busy things have been since November 21st, and how crazy Sunday is going to be? Sunday's like a 14-hour workday. You're going to ask us to watch these teams, these sub 500 Pac-12 teams, until 3 a.m.
What are you taking? What are you taking, buddy? You taking the under?
No, I'm I'm scrolling something here. All right. Practice update. This is from 88 minutes ago as of last night at 8:25. So that would have been what, like 6:45 Eastern, so 3:45 West Coast time from USCFootball.com. Update. Something is very off at practice. From Chris Trevino, covering practice. There's a weird vibe. Coaches are out, only some players. Music is playing, but again, no team. Additional update. To save you from the scroll, the start of practice was very off. A little later, told by source there is some sort of protest by the players over the Cal game. Details throughout.
They don't want to play it.
Cal -4. Cal is still going to get up because the guys who go to Cal don't get offered by USC. They will still care. Ask Danny about that when you play one of the ACC teams that you're like, we don't really give a shit about. That ACC team still cares. Cal -4. Any sort of like not wanting to play or distraction. Yeah.
Give me some of that.
Agreement. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
let's go.
It's the quit season. Everybody just loved it. They smell that blood in the water.
Have you there's the other narrative that the USC players are going to play hard because Lincoln Riley's now the coach and he's watching over them. I don't know if I'm buying that. I do know that Lincoln Riley showed up in LA and watched a little bit of practice and was like, oof. Like, I'm sure it was similar to when Mike Norvell took over Florida State and thought he was like, oof, I got some work to do. So I don't even know if it matters that much. Like, I don't know if they're salvaging much. So give me Cal as well. Big piece of motivation. This is a team that, like, Cal's players were very outspoken. Remember Chase Garbers was like politicking to have this game played, even though you're like, why would they want to play? They just love the game. Like, they want to get the best of the blue blood here. So yeah, give me Cal.
Great line from Brett in the chat. He says, nothing like a protest to bring the Cover 3 unity. Quit watch.
Damn hippies.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys aren't subscribed to 24/7 Sports, like, if you're someone who likes sports betting, it is easily going to pay for itself. Now, we get it comped, obviously, because we work here.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to pay for itself over the course of the year, right? I mean, one note could win you one bet or prevent you from putting in one losing bet. So it's not a gambling service. We're running a great special right now for Cyber Monday through the end of the week. I think it's smart to subscribe.
Time to turn our attention to the Moneyline Sprinkles. So, let's see. Moneyline Sprinkles right now. We've got Chip currently ahead, 7.88 units. Tom at 6.69 units. Bud at 2.53 units. Danny at 9.69 units.
Breaking news.
Dun, 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 dun. I think we teased this, right?
What? Steve Adazio.
Remember how we said Adazio's buyout drops?
Mhm.
Today's
December
day, he's
1st.
fired. Public service announcement: don't allow Urban Meyer to run your coaching search.
All right, let's just sort of go across the board here. Tom, actually, no, I'm in first place and I'm in last place. This is the only time I get to take control of this thing. Moneyline sprinkles, best price I can get on the Deeks.
That would be 130.
All right, Baylor.
You could look this up yourself before the show, buddy. Baylor plus 180.
And Alabama.
Oh God. Alabama's the best price is plus 198 is the highest I could see.
All right.
I can get Chip a 215 at Caesars
On the Tide?
Yeah.
I mean,
Caesars is not updated on the page. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, give me Wake Forest, Baylor, and Alabama as my championship money line sprinkles. Yeah, I like that. And that gets us a little bit closer to the Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Cincinnati, which I think will be our Final Four on Sunday.
So that's what you're basing your picks on, what you want?
It's just what I have to turn into CBS Sports HQ for a segment where okay, and now this happens, give me your 4. Okay, now this happens, give me your 4. And now this happens, give me your 4. Been running the Chipalytics all day trying to figure out what it's going to look like in all the 19 different scenarios, but thankfully I'm prepared. So at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time, check it out on the CBS Sports app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, I am with you on the Wake plus 130. I have two others that I'm adding. I will be adding Louisiana plus 120 and Oregon plus 116.
I'm in agreement on the Oregon and Louisiana, and I will throw Baylor in there too. Although the Baylor one, I need to come. My sprinkles have been atrocious. I'm just throwing crap at the wall. We had the upset thing. I don't know. I'll stick with it. I'll leave it out there. I don't love it. It's my least favorite sprinkle.
Bud,
I just have one.
All right.
Houston.
Wow.
I mean,
if this game plays out like I think, and their defensive line is able to give Cincinnati all kinds of problems, I don't see why Houston can't win the game.
If I'm going to entertain crushing heartbreak in Atlanta, there is as much, if not more, potential for crushing heartbreak in Nippert Stadium too. I mean, it's
so Chip.
All season.
Put on your HQ scenarios. If that happens, is Notre Dame in? Assuming Georgia wins?
That one of the scenarios I have to do is the most realistic path to get Notre Dame in. And it's Georgia beats Alabama decisively and Baylor beats Oklahoma State, then or Houston beats Cincinnati or Iowa beats Michigan.
I was firmly against Notre Dame getting in 2 weeks ago. And now I'm firmly in place of putting them in. Like I want to see them in without Brian Kelly now. And if they get left out and like Gary Barty uses that as the reason, I will lose my mind. Use any other explanation. Tell me the resume, tell me the eye test, but don't tell me because Brian Kelly's not there is the reason you're going to ding them in the conversation.
Oklahoma State's probably the biggest threat. Truly, like when we actually are trying to like figure out the different ways that it goes. If Oklahoma State in that very first game of the day, if it beats Baylor and you're a 12-1 Power 5 conference champion, then that's a spot that very well could be Notre Dame if they lose.
Here's my question for you. If Notre Dame does make the playoff and Notre Dame wins the national title, who's the national title winning coach? Is Brian Kelly the national title winning coach, or is Marcus Freeman in his second game ever a national title winning coach? Who gets the credit?
It's Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, I say too. I don't even think Brian Kelly gets a ring. That's how bitter I'd be as a player.
Urban didn't get the wins that Ryan Day got.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's an interesting situation.
Oh, it's and people are now propping up like Marcus Freeman is now the face of the sport, and like Notre Dame and USC have just launched into the like Q score stratosphere and upgraded in a big way in terms of star power, I think, and it's going to be very, very interesting, and I think good for college football overall. All right, I guess we need to review the full locks sheet for everyone. Let's see. We have 4. There we go. Tom is on Georgia -6.5, Cal -4, Western Kentucky -2.5, Alabama team total under 21.5, Michigan -10.5, Wake Pitt under 71.5, Kent State -3.5, San Diego State, Utah State under 50. I've got Alabama +6.5, Western Kentucky -2.5, Oregon, Utah first half under 29, Louisiana App State under 53.5, Michigan, Iowa under 44. Danny, Alabama +6.5, Cal -4, UTSA +3. Also the under 72.5 in Western Kentucky UTSA, the under 47 in Baylor, Oklahoma State, Wake Pitt over 71.5, Pitt -3, San Diego State, Utah State over 49.5, the Iowa team total under 16.5, Cincinnati -10.5, Louisiana +3, Alabama, Georgia first half under 24.5. Bud, Georgia -6.5, Cal -4, Pitt team total over 36.5, Oregon, Utah first half under 29, Baylor, Oklahoma State under 47, Michigan, Iowa under 44, Pitt -3, and Cincinnati, Houston under 53.5. Woo! Final thoughts? Anything else before we scoot out of here? We had like 15 games and we still went 76 minutes. That's our problem.
Well,
what is
now
wrong with us?
let's do 45 on who Colorado State should hire.
Emergency podcast, Colorado State.
I just wonder if we see a different outcome on championship weekend, because it's, again, I mentioned earlier, we've seen a lot of chalk with not a lot of shakeup this late. Usually the 4 teams, 1 out, and it's been pretty like not much drama. I do wonder if we see drama, like if we do see a couple upsets and it gets wild, because the whole season has been wild. I just wonder if that trend continues.
What were the last big upsets you guys can remember in the playoff era for these conference championship games when the team actually had a chance to get in?
I don't think there's been one. I really don't think there's been a favorite that's been beat that mattered in a conference championship weekend.
I'm trying to remember if Michigan State was favored over Iowa, but even if it was, I don't think that would really count.
It's kind of coin flippy at best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there really haven't been a lot. Not in playoff implications that I could think of. Maybe Florida State not losing the ACC championship was an upset to many people in 2015 because we kept waiting for them to lose at some point that year.
Yeah, not in the playoff era. Actually, I believe, wouldn't it be Oregon beating Utah, but Utah wasn't in the top 4.
Utah had knocked itself out with that Arizona State loss. So maybe, I guess you could say that counts. Yeah, but I don't think Utah was getting in based on the way the other results went that season.
Yeah.
Hey, last thing on my number here. Did I get 25.5 for the first half under? I thought I had 25.5.
Oh, yeah, that's a typo. My bad.
Okay, cool. Just checking. I'm coming. Look at he's trying to rig it. He knows I'm coming for him.
Stop the steal. You can follow him on Twitter at Danny Canal. You can follow him at Tom Fernell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya.